Hello, baby. Did you miss me?
When I was deciding whether to bet my whole career on this, I was wandering around an arcade where now the arcade games were out, but the video game wasn't out yet. And a little kid, an 11-year-old kid, slapped a quarter down on the arcade game, and that's a challenge. He looked up and he said, "I challenge you to Mortal Kombat." And the kid beat the hell out of me. He was great.
Give it up, baby. I've studied all your moves.
Yeah, study this!
And Mortal Kombat is very good at making you feel like you're strong for winning it. You win, Scorpion wins, Sub-Zero loses, flawless victory, fatality. And the kid walked away feeling 100 feet tall, and I thought, this game and this whole movie is not just about martial arts and finishing moves and things like that. It's about empowerment. So here's how I came across Mortal Kombat. The movie I'd made before that was Terminator 2. And Terminator 2 had a really successful arcade game, the most successful one ever. And I got very friendly with the arcade company, which was called Midway. And kind of just a joke, after Terminator 2, I was talking to them one day, they were in Chicago, and they said, "We're testing a game in a local arcade that the way it's testing, it's gonna beat your record of Terminator 2. And I said, "We can't have that." And I happened to be going to Chicago, so I went over and I played it. There were only 2 games in existence then, one in an arcade and one in the chairman's office in this kind of warehouse they worked out of in Chicago. I played the game in his office, the CEO's office, his name was Neil, and then I turned to him and I said, "This is Star Wars meets Enter the Dragon," meaning it's a classic martial arts movie, if we make it a movie, but we can Hollywood it up. We can put in great effects, great music, great people, great locations. And I said, if you give me the rights to this, I guarantee you, I will make this not just as a movie, but in every medium in the world. Movies, TV, music, animation, live shows. I guarantee you, this is amazing. And he looked at me and he said, piece of crap video game. the chairman. So it took me several months to convince him that it was way more than that. And I finally did. He was a great guy. He was just, And then I waited once I got the rights till it came to the home. And when it came to the home, it was a huge phenomenon, and that's when we started working on the movie. But those were the early days. There were no hit movies ever made from a video game at that point. It was sort of considered to be the kiss of death if you trying to make a movie out of a video game. And everyone else had failed. People were calling me saying, "What are you doing? You're ruining your career, don't do it." Everyone was telling me not to do it, and I was crazy. It's kind of a theme I find. I believe you have to have a touch of the madness to do this stuff. And if everyone tells you you're crazy, that's usually a good idea. And in some studios I went to said, "This is great. What is it?" I said, "A video game." They said, "What's a video game?" It was really new. Now we look at it as part of the fabric of life, but in those days it wasn't. It was a phenomenon. Mortal Kombat at the home was sweeping the country and then started sweeping the world. So people knew it had a lot of pre-promoted value to it, and they knew there was something there. And they didn't trust us, and they didn't really know what it was. And New Line in those days was not owned by Warner Brothers, and the head of production was a guy named Mike DeLuca, and DeLuca was a young, kind of cool, hip guy, so he knew what it was, he understood it, and they needed a movie at the same time. And I knew a lot of people at New Line. So it was a confluence of events between having the right production head who was an understanding of what a video game is and what's going on and who the audience for this was, and the timing of it.
Let's dance.
There's a huge amount of upside here. This game is just getting incredibly famous. The secret is, I didn't think I was making a movie out of a video game. I thought I was making a movie out of the story a video game is based on. And so if you look at a pyramid of intellectual property, I never thought Mortal Kombat, the video game, was at the top. I thought Mortal Kombat, the story, which didn't exist, by the way, so we had to kind of write it, was at the top. And it always full of empowerment. And then you go one rung down, and here you have a video game. You come back up, and you go one rung down, and here you have a movie, and here you have a TV show, and other things like that. So my secret was that we're making a movie out of the story on which this video game is based on, because that's why it's successful. And it's all based, in my opinion, it's all based on empowerment. They were talking to me, they said, "I don't know, it's so violent," because that was the thing about the video game, it was so violent. And the mortal, death, and I said, no, the mortal in Mortal Kombat means life, it means people fighting to protect their realm. Now, it is about people fighting to protect their realm, but the whole spiel about mortal means life, I just made that up. And they said, "Oh, that makes sense." So empowerment, and that's what martial arts teaches. Martial arts teaches you don't have to be the biggest or the strongest on the block if you study and do the right thing. So we just kept trying to infuse that on the one hand in the wild fun, the best costumes, the best fights. I mean, I scoured the world looking for the best martial artists, and we found such great people. We found J.J. Perry, who is now a huge director. We found Chris Casamassa, who played Scorpion. We found literally the world champions. Dana He, who played Sonya, who doubled Sonya. So we had the great actors and great martial artists. And we found people all over the world. We put a guy named Tony Jaa in the second movie. Tony later became a huge star from Thailand. I mean, really, we found the best people. And when you cast a martial arts movie, you always have a question as a producer. Do you hire actors and teach them how to fight? Or do you hire fighters and teach them how to act? And you can split that a million ways. So we tried to look for people who had both, who had some fighting skills, or a lot, like in the case of Robin Shou, a lot of fighting skills, or some of our secondary characters, a ton of fighting skills, and our stunt people, amazing amounts of fighting skills. But even guys like Lyndon Ashby was a pretty good fighter. And so you had to have it. You have to have that intensity that when you go like that, the audience believes you could kill somebody. One of the questions we always ask ourselves, and still to this day do when we cast a martial arts movie, is the audience going to look at this guy or girl and think they could kill you? And so it was that. But we also wanted to have kind of a bit of fun.
We're standing, they're not. What more do you want?
There's a scene in the movie where Christopher Lambert, who plays Raiden, and we wanted Raiden to be kind of a fun, kick-ass kind of god. It is supposed to say to the three of them, you know, the fate of the world depends on you, and he just couldn't get it out. It seemed too corny. And so he was kidding around during a take, and he said, the fate of the world depends on you. Sorry. And he was like kidding, he was like teasing them. That joke of his is in the movie, and it's the best line in the movie in terms of comedy. And so we tried to, on the other hand, diffuse some of the heaviness of it with comedy or with fun. So it seemed believable, it seemed real. And people, you know, when you make a movie like this, in my opinion, you have test screenings and you watch the audience. And if the audience is sitting there going like this, you fail. If the audience is going like this, you win. And that's what the audience was doing. They were screaming, they were jumping up and down, they were running up and down the aisles. It moved them to want to go and be better. It inspired them. And that's why I hit movies.
Remember my words.
Kitana! That's enough!
You disappoint me.
When we did the first test screening of the first movie, the audience was 99% we love the movie, but they all had the same comment, which is more fights. More fights, more fights, more fights. And I always believe if you have a test screening and everyone says a bunch of different things, throw it out. But if everybody says one thing, listen. And so the studio was great. I mean, we went back to DeLuca and the studio and New Line, and we said, look, they clearly want more fights. They love the movie, but it's not enough. Let's do 2 more fights. And they agreed, and they spent a lot of money, and we did the Scorpion Johnny Cage fight and the Reptile Liu Kang fight. And, you know, there's always a moment in a film, like when I start a film, I have a few key scenes in my mind that I envision. And if I'm on a set and I get them, I know we got it. And there was a scene in the Reptile Liu Kang fight where Liu runs and jumps and lands on his shoulders and then falls back and flips him over as lightning is flashing. And I just punched Paul in the arm playfully and I said, we got the movie. I knew we had the movie. So yeah, the test screening sort of provided the impetus or gave us the idea to shoot more fights. The studio was great about it, and they're the best 2 fights in the movie. We were driving to our hotel one day as we got to Thailand, and we saw this rubber tree plantation. A rubber tree plantation, the trees are all planted in a row, so it's great depth of field. And we just stopped. We didn't plan it at all, but that's how we opened that fight, and that's how we began that scene. So we just found great dreamy places, because Thailand is a wonderful dreamy place that matched perfectly what we wanted to do. They were the people of Thailand, could not have been nicer to us. We did something unusual too. Usually you shoot exteriors in a movie first, and then interiors later. We decided to switch it, so we shot interiors first, and the exteriors in Thailand, meaning the whole crew winds up on a beautiful island in Thailand with a free ticket home, meaning they could take vacation. But it was just, I can't describe how wonderful Thailand was and still is. It's a great place. It's beautiful. The crews are great. The people are nice as can be. And we tried to infuse as much of the sort of Thai feeling and culture into the movie as we can. I mean, we had an experience once where there was a location we wanted, and our local Thai line producer said, well, I'm just negotiating. I said, they want too much money. He goes, oh, no, I'm negotiating with the ghosts. I'm like, what? He goes, well, we have to get the ghosts out to make you come in, so we're negotiating with the ghosts. I'm like, but you know, it all worked out. On the second movie, we shot in the old capital of Ayutthaya on both movies. And in the second movie, we had, story-wise, one of the temples, the small temples, had to get blown up. So we built a fake temple next to a real temple that looked the same, and we blew up the fake temple. But the crowd watching didn't realize that we blew up a fake temple. And so that got a little dicey for a minute or two, but largely they were great. We actually cast some real monks. I mean, they just couldn't have been nicer. The greatest challenge making Mortal Kombat was that no one, but our ragtag crew, thought Mortal Kombat would work. No one. I mean, the studio, everybody, no one, they just didn't believe it. And so you're up against a lot of odds then, but in a way it kind of brought us all in the movie together. Like, well, we only got each other, so we're gonna make it all work together, and that's what we did. Even, that same head of the game company, we sent him a early screening of the movie when the movie was finished. He said, 3 out of 10. I mean, some adults, until they watch the movie with an audience full of, kids or young people, you don't really understand what was going on. If you talk, in those days, if you talk to a kid now, when we were making the movie about Mortal Kombat, or someone maybe under 25, the best thing in the world. If you talk to someone over, they have no idea what we're talking about. I said to the chairman of Midway, if you give me the rights, I will produce this in every medium in the world. So from day one, I thought we're making a sequel, but not only a sequel. I had planned an animated series, a live action series, and a live tour, not to mention merchandise, toys, and things like that. So I had these whole thing, I had 5 years of this planned. And so I was planning it from day one. And the sequel fit into a time schedule we had. So as I said, I was planning it from the beginning. After that opening weekend, we had the juice to convince everyone to do it, but that was my plan from the beginning. So from the first to the second film, what I wanted to do was go bigger. We knew what the audience liked, we wanted to go bigger. Now when you have a sequel to a hit movie, you have the opposite problem. Everyone wants to be involved in the movie. So the first movie, one of the good parts of no one believing in it is everyone just left us alone. Because if it doesn't work, in Hollywood, they want to be distanced from it. The second movie, now we had 1 million chefs in the kitchen. So the first one we probably didn't have enough. The second one we probably had too much. And we just wanted to go bigger. And I wanted the movie to fit in my schedule of my 5-year plan, which it did. But in reality, I probably pushed it too much. And I probably learned a lesson that although it was the right thing to do business-wise, we should have held that movie a little bit more before we started it production-wise. Because it just was a little too much, and schedules didn't work. Chris Lambert wasn't available when we needed him to. Some of the other people weren't. So we probably pushed it a little. I think I would take responsibility for that. I probably pushed it a little too soon.
The energies they waste with their sniveling, I would use to capture souls. Or you.
No. You are all far too impetuous for such important work.
Now, when you have a sequel to a hit movie, you have to ask yourself, okay, it has to coordinate with the first movie. It has to coordinate with the new games. It has to coordinate with the TV series I'm about to make, the live tour I'm about to make, and the animated series I'm about to make. So we had to piece that whole world together. It wasn't a choice that I sat down and said, we need more characters, but there were just a lot more characters because the games had progressed too. And it was 1.5 years from the first movie to the first movie coming out, and then 2 years before we made the second. There were just more characters. And the audience wanted to see them. I mean, the audience wanted to see the characters. When we were developing the first movie, and we were in pre-production and we're building the sets, sometimes you have school classes who come in just to see what's going on in a movie. So we had this class of maybe 12-year-olds or 11-year-olds, and they came in and we were showing them all the character designs, and they were all loving it. And then we showed them a character named Kano. Kano has a kind of a metal eye patch. But I mentioned I had worked on Terminator 2 before that, where Arnold kind of has a metal eye patch. So I wasn't going to have him have a metal eye patch. I thought it's too like what we just did. And this kid said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Kano." He goes, "Kano has a metal eye patch." And I said, "Yeah, but I made this movie called Terminator, and we were involved in it, and we thought," and he goes, No, Kano has a metal eye patch. And he started hyperventilating. Really, no kidding. And I thought, holy crap, what a great. And so I said, you know what, you're right, this is my mistake, and I ripped it up, and we went back to Kano having metal eye patch. That's a long way of saying people were really invested in these characters. So if you have a movie, and now you're a Melina fan, and Melina's not in the movie, you're an unhappy one of our audience. So it was just more characters to serve. So because of the success of the first film, we got a little bit more of a budget and a little bit more time, but never enough. So we wanted the film to be bigger, and so therefore we wanted to fight with more effects because people love the effects of the first movie. No producer or director will really ever tell you they had enough time. But given that, we didn't have enough time. And in my opinion, and this is not to say anything wrong about the studio or anyone else, it's just in my opinion, we really never finished those effects. There was a whole other layer. I've done a lot of effects movies of perfectionism that we would have had. I think the studio thought people love this no matter what, and it's fine. And it was fine, but it wasn't the greatest. You know, when you have a sequel, you have to be different enough so the audience isn't bored, but similar enough so it's their baby. And that's what you're planning on a little bit. So we went to many more places. We went to Petra in Jordan, which is one of the most stunning places on earth, which is a wonderful place to shoot. We shot in a abandoned, I think it was a copper mine in Wales, but the day before we shot in the copper mine, there was a hurricane. And so if you see that's the movie where the two girls are fighting in shorts, and I was in an Arctic snow gear. I directed a lot of second unit on the movie, but we just went with it. And so there was a lot of bigger stuff, and therefore we didn't, every producer will say this, we didn't probably have enough money for what we bid off. We probably bid off a little bit more than we could chew. But we did go to more places, and we did get great shots, and there are some great fights in that movie. Do I have a favorite between the two films? You're never supposed to say this, but the first film is my favorite, not only because of just the film, but remember, I started a new company to make this movie. I gambled my career in this movie. I made some of my best friends today are from the movie. I learned all about Thailand from the movie. There were so many wonderful things that came from that movie that weren't just the movie. I mean, as I said, I started my company, Starshell Entertainment. I still have it. It's growing. All started on Mortal Kombat. So there's a lot of other non-film reasons why the first one's my favorite. It will always have a special place in my heart.
You humans are so unpredictable. I've got to tell you something. You guys did great.
Well, I hope that the reason that Mortal Kombat is a classic and still loved today is because we achieved the objective of infusing empowerment and making a movie not based on the video game, but based on the story the video game is based on, and doing what we said, making kind of Enter the Dragon meets Star Wars, meaning a blitzed up new kind of martial arts movie, because up to that point, a martial arts movie hadn't ever been made that way. And I think the final thing in it was, as I said, the twinkle in the eye of guys like Chris Lambert and Lyndon Ashby and all the other actors is still infectious today.